Okay, welcome back, everybody. If you're just tuning in, you are watching the afternoon session of the Board of Finance Department hearings on the 2021-22 municipal budget. We are beginning this afternoon with Megan Murphy and Andrew Kingsbury in the Emergency Management Department. Our page number is 233 in our big budget books. And Megan Murphy, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Appreciate your time today. So I'll begin with just going over some of the successes and the accomplishments that the Office of Emergency Management had over the past year. I listed a number of them, and we could have actually listed a lot more. Obviously, it goes without saying that we've had an extremely busy year between a worldwide pandemic and a tropical storm thrown in there. Things were a tad bit on the insane side. Some stuff that we did do was that we rewrote all the points of distribution plans for the town. So if we have to distribute food, vaccines, medication, these are the plans that we follow. We also procured PPE from the Connecticut Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security for the ongoing COVID-19 response. Just to give you some quick figures that are not in the listed here in the goals and objectives. Emergency management distributes 7,000 surgical masks and 200 infrared thermometers to small businesses in Trumbull, along with another 8,300 masks were distributed to senior citizen residents. We provided DPW in Town Hall with over 6,000 masks, dozens of IR thermometers, and thousands of pairs of gloves. Office of Emergency Management distributed to police, fire, and EMS 14,000 surgical masks, hundreds of N95s, face shields, gowns, thermometers, and 2,500 pairs of nitrile gloves. We assisted the Board of Education with 4,000 masks and over 7,000 pairs of gloves, along with gowns and face shields for the reopening of schools. We supported local healthcare facilities with PPE, and also, unfortunately, we did distribute dozens of body bags to long-term care facilities during the height of the pandemic. In total, the Office of Emergency Management distributed over 40,000 masks. So that's just kind of some of the stuff that we did with PPE. We're able to establish a centralized location for PPE. And also we continue to procure PPE for the ongoing response. We co-authored the government reopening plans when Town Hall reopened and the different phases that we've been going through, along with working with the Board of Education on their reopening plans. We did have a significant response with Tropical Storm Isaias, and we continue to work on that through the FEMA reimbursement process because that was declared a disaster, presidential disaster. The other large things that we did was we opened up and supported Griffin Health with the COVID testing site that occurs every Tuesday. We coordinated large-scale food distribution to residents in response to COVID-19. We also had our CERT team deliver over 1,000 meals to those that were homebound, again, during the height of the pandemic. And we recruited and certified 24 new CERT members. So this is just some of the stuff that we did. Again, the list really goes on and on. Some of the objectives that we have for next year is that the revision for the local emergency operations plan is due to the state. So that will be a huge undertaking. There are a couple of annexes that need to have complete rewrites done. We continue to work with the utilities and enhance those relationships. Again, enhance emergency shelter and warming, cooling facilities and equipment. We're still working on becoming a national weather service storm ready community. We really wanted to do that last year, but everything that was going on with COVID, we just didn't get a chance to meet that goal. We want to, again, repair and upgrade the town command trailer, strengthen the CERT team with more recruits, more training, and then continue to play an active long-term role in the long-term recovery plan for businesses and residents affected by the impacts from COVID-19. And then also expand and harden the emergency operations center capabilities. So that's what we did and what we're hoping to do.
Megan?
Yeah.
Last year you had one of your goals was to complete the VOCI Next Gen integration and training. Did you get to do that?
We didn't get to do that because that was right when we made steps to do it and then we weren't able to complete it.
Is that something that you're hoping to be able to do this coming year?
Yes, because when Tropical Storm Isaias hit, we realized just how desperately we really do need to get that done.
And you have that budgeted for this year?
Bill, I'm gonna actually refer that to you because all the VOG stuff is in your line items now.
Right,
Okay.
that project is not budgeted for this upcoming year.
Okay. Mrs. Tesoro?
I don't think it was a big expense, maybe only 1,500, but I'd have to triple check on that.
Which there may be monies that at the end of the year I may be able to move around to help cover that expense.
Okay. Mrs. Tesoro?
Thank you. This is Vicki Tesoro, First Selectman. I just want to mention here, probably should have said it at the beginning of these meetings this morning. As you probably can see from the departments you've already talked to, the outstanding work that our town employees have done this last year. I don't want to single out anybody in fear of not mentioning somebody, but certainly everyone has stepped up to the plate and hit the ball out of the park. Probably 1 million times this year. And this department is certainly an example of that as to the extraordinary work that has been done by the Emergency Management Department to keep this community safe, keep our employees safe, keep the public safe. Certainly that goes for all of our first responders, our police, our EMS, our fire, our volunteer fire departments as well. So I don't want to not mention anyone, but I certainly want you to know, it was in my transmittal letter, how proud I am to work with all of these people. They are professionals. They do more than they're asked to do. And we can see the results. I think our community has maintained a great deal of safety, both for our employees and our residents as well. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thanks.
Mr. Barker?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Michael Barker, Board of Finance. Director Murphy, thank you for that report. I just had a question about the Long-Term Recovery Committee, and I don't know if this is actually a question for the First Selectman, in which case please just defer it. But I am aware of an effort happening with MetroCog, which has its own long-term recovery initiative with regard to these what they call unmet need statements, and I wonder if you're interfacing with any of that.
Yes, so Rena Bacalar is the chair of the long-term recovery plan for the town of Trumbull, and she is involved with MetroCog at the regional level and going back and forth with them.
Well, I can follow up with Rena. Are you aware of any funding requests that are coming out of EMS for that?
I do know that there's discussion about funding coming down. I do not know the particulars, so I would have to defer to Rena for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Just moving through the budget, we kept everything the same. Salaries, the overtime account that's funded back by the EMPG grant money that is received from the government, uniforms, supplies, professional development and services, all that remained the same. The one thing that did increase under maintenance and services was our UASC sustainment that has to be paid to the region of $14,194. You will see that that money was returned last year. The city of Stamford, who's the fiduciary agent for the region, never sent out the bills. So everybody's books were closed. I'm not sure where that lies with the city of Stamford, but we will owe $14,194 for the next upcoming fiscal year. The $1,200 is for, again, our consultant, which has been a lifesaver because he gives us what is actually coming and not what's coming with all the media hype attached to it. So, and he's a Trumbull resident, which is good. As far as maintenance and equipment, we requested 7,500. I know last year I requested 5,000 for the command trailer. It just continues to fall into further and further disrepair. It would have been really beneficial this year to have in working order, because we could have used it for COVID testing site for first responders versus having to have them go into buildings or stand outside. But again, just as a reminder, the command trailer, it's used at town events such as Trumbull Day. It's also used when there needs to be a police presence. If you recall the events that were happening down on Quarry Road in the swimming hole, we did use the command trailer down there to show police presence. So it is used at large incidents as well. So I am looking to try and obtain $7,500 to continue to make some repairs on the trailer. As far as capital outlay, I had requested another variable message board. While I understand that they are extremely expensive, so I do understand why the first selectman chose to remove that from the budget. I will make a plea for it because it is a piece of equipment that is used by almost every department in this town. The variable message boards, you see them, the one that we currently have is down on White Plains Road, just past the Twin Bridges there, directing people to where the COVID-19 testing site is. I'm currently renting 2 up at the high school right now for when we do the large scale vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine clinics up there. We could have used one last night at 25 and 111 to alert people of the power outage. So these signs are in constant use, and they are extremely expensive to rent. It was $5,000 to rent 2 of them for a month. So that is the one thing that would be good to have another one of. And then telephone is just a number that gets put in by finance. So that is pretty much all that I have.
Vinny?
Vinny DiGennaro, Board of Finance. 2 things, Megan. First thing, what qualifies a community as storm ready?
I'm actually going to let Andy Kingsbury speak to that because he has had the process of taking the town of Westport through the storm ready process.
Yes, I'd be glad to answer that. The process really isn't that tough. We do most of these things already. It's having 24-hour warning points, having an EOC, having multiple ways to make notification to citizens, a way to monitor weather, things like be small investments like weather stations, doing public outreach. That is one of the requirements of Storm Ready. Having a formal hazard plan. And you may or may not know that engineering department, I think just recently it gets a discount to residents that are in a flood zone. So that works hand in hand with things like that. It's called the CRS program. So Trumbull residents, I believe, get either a 5 or a 10% discount on their flood insurance. And part of that is having things like a Storm Ready. It helps increase that. So every classification would be another 5% discount to residents. The benefits of it are great. Fortunately, I still have some connections at the Weather Service out in Upton, New York. So the director and I are able to call out to the Weather Service to talk to them about what's happening immediately with weather. Dominic Serbo is great for us for predicting weather, but there's nothing like when you're up on the highway. And I can remember doing this several times. I had a really bad tanker crash with 5,000 gallons of fluid run down the highway, and talking to the Weather Service from the highway and saying, I see a storm coming, what's going to be happening, and then giving me minute to minute weather forecasts. Things like Trumbull Day, we've utilized it for looking at our thunderstorms going to be coming in, what should we be doing? So I hope that answers your question, but that's some of the things that the Weather Service does. They provide training for us. So we would go out to Brookhaven National Laboratories out in up to New York to do training with them every year. So it's a really, really great resource.
Thank you. My second comment is about the trailer. I can recall last year when we had a debate about whether we should get it or not. It turned out that would have been, as Megan just said, good to have around. Is there any way, and maybe this is a question for Maria, is this something that could be put into the COVID requirements, the COVID funding, or post-COVID follow-up? I'm not sure. I'm sure there's going to be money coming someplace, but is it something that would qualify for that type of funding?
We could look into it. I'm not sure because this is not a temporary purchase. It's not going to be specific for COVID, and they have denied those kind of purchases. So we can definitely question that and forward it to our FEMA reps, but I don't think it qualifies only because it's not a one-time purchase for one-time event.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Lainey, you're muted, so we don't know who you were calling on.
I'm sorry. We're going to Mary, then Elaine, then Mark, and I'm sorry about that. Go ahead, Mary.
Hi, sorry, just quickly, I know last year when we passed the capital budget, this was obviously brought up as a discussion piece, and you were going to be looking into grants. I don't know if you've been able to locate any, or perhaps with everything going on, you haven't quite had time to even go through that, or perhaps Rena was in on that discussion as well.
So I did put a proposal together for it to be put into the capital plan, although it didn't make it into the capital plan. I did find some grants that were available, but they were more for the purchase of the equipment that goes on the command trailer than rather the actual vehicle itself.
Thank you.
Elaine.
Hi, Elaine Hammers, Board of Finance. Actually, I was going to ask what Vinny did about putting this into the COVID expense. Maria, I understand why we can't, but as the $5,000 a month we're spending renting the two temporarily go into the COVID expense?
Yes, I believe that 5,000 is going into the COVID, the FEMA reimbursement. I will double check that as well.
Okay, and so I guess my comment there is we keep talking about it, we keep delaying it. It's $18,000. It seems like we're getting lots of use for it, and I'm not sure it will solve everything, because if you're renting two, then getting one won't necessarily solve the whole problem, but at least maybe in the long run it'll help. And I guess I'm the command trailer. What did we say was the full amount to purchase it?
A new one
Yeah.
would be several $100,000.
Okay. And I guess my point maybe would be we're bonding equipment, something that expensive and having such a long life would be a piece of equipment that could be bonded. Every time we have a disaster or a problem, we say, gee, it would have been good if we had this. At what point do we do it instead of throwing $7,000, $8,000 into repairing it? And so, thank you.
Okay. Mark Mascola.
Yep, Mark Mascola, Board of Finance. Hey, Megan, how are you? So where's for the $5,000 a month? That's for these variable signs. It doesn't look like they're in, or the rental is in your budget here. So is that in other town departments when they rent it out? So at the high school, is it in the Board of Ed? Do you know where that's getting paid?
It's coming out of the COVID vaccine account, and they will be eligible for FEMA reimbursement because they are being used specifically for response to COVID-19 and for COVID-19 vaccines. So really the only way that stuff can be reimbursed is if it is being used solely for the COVID-19 response. I got it.
So once the pandemic kind of subsides, right, and then it would just be for general town use, the extra one that we would purchase. It wouldn't be a need so much for COVID anymore, right?
No, but I can tell you that I probably receive phone calls weekly from either the town highway department or engineering department wanting me to put them up to alert residents to paving, detours that are coming up. I will be honest with you, I think we took delivery of ours, once it was June 2018. And if that sign has sat idle for more than 2 months since then, that's been a lot. The police department has asked to put up reminders to please lock your cars. We use them for Trumbull Day notification, alert residents that the 9/11 ride is coming. And what's hard is, especially when you need to catch traffic coming from 2 different angles, or if it gets placed on the Long Hill side of town, then residents in Nichols are upset because, well, why didn't we get notification over here? So we try and stick it in the middle, make everybody happy. But we really do have a need for 2. I mean, honestly, I could just
it would seem like, yeah, it would seem like, is it 5,000 each month or is it 5,000 for 2?
It's
I was just curious.
It's $2,500 for each one per month.
Each unit?
So I'm renting 2
Got it.
right now, so it's 5,000 a month.
Yep. Okay. And look, it seems like there's a cost benefit analysis there that we should look at. As we get out of the pandemic and we no longer have the COVID relief, if we still have a use for the sign, $2,500 a month for a rental is, the ROI is pretty quick on that. The payback's pretty quick on that one, I would think. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions on emergency management? Okay. I don't see any more on emergency management, so we'll move on to the fire marshal department. Switch hats, Megan. And we'll go to page 211 in our big books. Whenever you're ready.
Things here. Okay. So a lot of our goals that we had set and objectives that we had set for last year were hindered greatly by the COVID-19 pandemic. One of the big things that we really wanted to do was to do fire prevention and really promote fire safety to our elderly population. We weren't able to do that because bringing a bunch of people, the vulnerable population together, was not advisable during the pandemic. Also, we wanted to continue to work with our assisted living facilities and our skilled nursing facilities, healthcare facilities, to help them meet the new state mandates for emergency preparedness. We had to carry that over because the state issued orders that unless you were going into a skilled nursing facility or as such, for emergency reasons, you could not go into those skilled facilities due to the pandemic. So those are things that we definitely want to strive to continue to do. Again, we want to continue to strengthen our online permitting process, work with businesses, changing occupancies that are constantly being affected by the governor's executive orders, and to provide continuity of services to both commercial and residents during the remainder of the pandemic. One of the biggest accomplishments that I think that I'm so proud of my office over the past year is that they didn't miss a beat during this entire pandemic. Everything was shutting down around us. They continued to be out there in person doing inspections, working back and forth between online and in-person permitting, really working through the kinks of doing online permitting, and they've done it without missing a beat. And that's really one of the things that I think we've heard a lot of feedback from residents and business owners on, is that they have truly appreciated being able to do online permitting. So we want to continue to work towards that and move towards 100% electronic permitting. And again, work with the healthcare agencies to meet their state mandates for emergency preparedness. So those are primarily the things that we want to continue to work on and stuff that we've done over the past year. As far as the budget, I primarily left the budget alone. There's a couple of areas that I did have to increase, those being the professional development in services, Due to the fact that we have missed all of our training for the past year, we are now behind in credits. All of our conferences were canceled. So now we are scrambling, trying to attend everything that's possible, that's available. They've now started doing conferences online via Zoom. However, they are also still now charging for them. So I'm requesting a few $100s more just so that we can make sure that we get all of our training in for all 4 of us. For professional development, again, just $1,900. And then for publications, there is a new fire code that's being adopted. They're saying it's going to go into effect on October 1st, 2021. It was supposed to go into effect on October 1st, 2020. Obviously, the pandemic has stalled that whole process. Also, our NFPA fire code renewal, that goes up annually. And then everything else I primarily left the same with 0 increase from last year.
Any questions? Megan, I may have missed what you said. You were talking about online permitting and things like that. Did you, I know last year we talked about your reports and just being able to complete your reports and stuff in digital format. Were you able to do that?
Yes, yes. So all of our fire reports are on a new software. They are being reported all electronically now. The state switched over to a new reporting system as well. The new software is 1,000 times better. So that's working well. And then again, we've really, it was something that we wanted to move to, was start accepting digital plans and things of that nature, especially for the smaller projects.
Yeah.
And this kind of forced us to do it, and we did it. And I have to say, it's working very well.
Good. The other thing is your continuing education and your like CEU types classes. I know that in healthcare that they were suspending the audit for that. So if you didn't meet the requirement, they hoped you would meet the requirement, but if you didn't for the year because of COVID, that they were not penalizing people. Is that a issue across the board with the state, or?
So fire marshals are on a different cycle. Fire marshals are on a 3-year cycle. So you just have to maintain 90 credits every 3 years. So they didn't extend your deadline. You just have to catch up. So if you miss an entire year, you're going to have to do, instead of 30, you're going to have to do 45 each year for the next 2 years to catch up.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on to Elaine's favorite topics, fire hydrants. We'll be moving to page 219. Elaine, would you like to take this one, or do you want to just?
Actually, it's a very painful expenditure, but I'm happy to see it's like dropped by $75,000. So
Maria or Megan, any?
That's at least good. Maria would probably have to explain why.
As you see in the text, there is a credit being of 2.3% that's starting April 2021.
Okay.
That's the reason for the decrease. I projected to the end of the year just based on the average monthly right now, and we'll be on target of $1.6 million, but it could be lower because the fact that they're changing the rates in April.
Okay. Happy news for fire hydrants. All right, Megan, I don't think we have anything else. So thank you guys very much. That ends our public safety segment, and Bill has asked that we take a moment. We're going to stop the Facebook Live feed so that public safety is encapsulated in one unit, and then we'll pick back up in about 5 minutes with social services and Michelle Jacquet.